Righto, John Small, Trials Agronomist for Central West Farming Systems. We're back at the Weethalle trial site. It's the 22nd of October, and there's some really interesting lessons to be learnt about weed management and how weeds grow and how we manage our stubbles pre-sowing. This paddock, like most paddocks in the Central West, has got a long history of black oats, and black oats is becoming a major in-crop weed, particularly in these seasons where we're getting dry and hard finishes. It's really taking away from the yield. At the moment, I'm standing in a plot here that was standing stubble, standing here in a plot that has had nothing done to it since the crop last year, except at the time we would have sown the crop, it had boxer gold and treflan applied to it, and we can see that there's very few black oats and ryegrass plants emerged. In the crop that was sown into that standing stubble, we can see that pre-sowing treatment, that pre-sowing herbicide treatment has really managed the black oats quite well. If we just move down, if we keep going and we move down to the next plot, the only difference between this plot and the previous plot was that in this plot the stubble was actually knocked over with a set of harrows prior to sowing, and that was to replicate perhaps a grazing situation, or a situation where the grower wanted to put some stubble on the ground to make it easier to sow, or a whole range of reasons why that may have happened. We can see that just by that simple one operation of the harrows going over, we can see there's a bigger emergence of black oats. There's a bit of barley grass around, there's a bit of brome. It's putting more pressure on those pre-sowing herbicides, boxer gold and treflan. But then if we look across the trial site in the same strip where it's had the same treatment, we can see that crop competition has certainly kept those weeds at bay. There's an odd one here and there, but the key here is crop competition. We now move down to a plot that was cultivated. It was cultivated late February, and we can see that by that very active cultivation, we've restarted the seed bed. We've woken up a lot of dormant seeds that were in there. We can see we've got significant ryegrass populations. We've certainly got some black oats, and that has put a lot of pressure on our in-crop sprays. There was no in-crop spray applied to this, so it's only treflan boxer gold at sowing time. And if we look over at the trial site in the cultivated strip, we can see once again that crop competition has managed to slow the weeds down. There's a few over there to my left, about 6 or 7 plots away, and there's certainly more black oats in these cultivated patches than in where the stubble was not disturbed, and certainly where the ground surface was not disturbed. So the message here is that if we're going to use cultivation strategically in our no-till farming systems, we must come to terms with what we do with the dormant weed seeds that we'll just encourage to grow. Righto, so just recapping that message so as we're clear, if we're going to include cultivation in our long-term no-till paddocks that have a history of weeds anywhere in the last 20 years, we're probably going to bring some dormant weed seeds back to life. And it's quite plain to see here that we've brought a black oats problem back. We just come back this way a little bit. And compare it to these blocks where the stubble was managed on the surface but not incorporated. We can see there's less of a problem. And still coming back. Where the surface wasn't disturbed at all, except for the sowing operation, we can certainly see there's less of an emergence of weeds over time. So the message here is, if we're going to cultivate as a way of managing our stubbles in long-term no-till stubble paddocks for one reason or another, let's be ready to to really attack those dormant weed seeds that will emerge as a result of cultivation.